Dear students and participants of the course on railway engineering, today we are going to start this particular course, and the lecture 1 will be talking about the introduction of this course as well as the introduction of the railways in the case of the world as well as specifically to India. And when we will be talking about India, we will be discussing about the salient features, we will be talking about National Rail Plan 2030 and the various types of rail systems which are available for the intracity and intercity systems like metro systems, suburban rail systems or high speed rail, which is the hot cake at the time in India. Now, if we look at the railways in the world, so world at a glance, what it gives you an idea that you can see that there are different areas which are having a dense network of railways. If you look at India, here also you can see that the dense network of railways is there and it is across the whole of the country. If you look at the Southeast Asia, there also this is available, but there are many areas in which that network is not available. If you see in the case of South America here, or if you see the big area at the top, that is Canada or Alaska, there is no such network available. If you go by the networks and the highest or the biggest networks which are available, what we found is the top 5 networks are in USA, China, Russia, India and Canada. So, in India, the network is 68,043 kilometers long. Now, if you look at the longest high speed rail networks in the world, and these have been given in terms of the kilometers of the high speed rail track in operation. So, what we found is that China is a super giant in the area of high speed rail network. It has 35,388 kilometers of the network, and it's almost 10 times of the second place, which is being taken by Spain. It has 3,330 kilometers, and if you go down and you found that the top 10 countries, Turkey is the last one with having almost 600 kilometers of the high speed rail network. But India at the moment is not there in this particular list. And that is the area or the gray area in which we are aspiring to come up, and we have started implementation. The another information which we can look at is in terms of high speed trains. There are now different types of high speed trains which are being used or are running in different countries. We can see that there is CR 400BF, TGV, Shinkansen, RGV, AVE, KTX, Frequencies and IC. Two types of information has been shared here. One is what is the maximum operating speed, another one is what is the speed record or the highest speed which has been attained by that particular system. In that direction, if you see TGV has attained a speed of more than 500 kilometers per hour, and the operating speed is 320 kilometers per hour. But the highest operating speed, if you see, is 349, which is for CR 400BF. So, it means there are possibilities of having the modern tracks on which the trains can move at a very fast speed, and you can reach your destination in a much lesser time as compared to what is happening today. Now, let us come to India, because our focus is going to be the Indian railways and the tracks which have been provided in India. If we see the historical condition, then the first time when one of the train has come up in India was on December 22nd, 1851, and that was in Roorkee. And this particular train was a freight train which hauled the construction material over a distance of 6 kilometers, and this material was used for the construction of Solani Viaduct. And the locomotive which ferried that train was named as Thomason. Then in 1852, February 23, the locomotive Falkland started shunting in Mumbai, and then in April 16, 1853 was the time which is mostly known to all of us in terms of the first passenger train which ran between Boribandar and Thane, and it was hauled by 3 locomotives together, the Sindh, Sultan and Sahib. So, this is just a historical background of how the railways started in India. If you look at the salient features here, the salient features like the route length in kilometers, which is 68,043 kilometers, and the majority of that has now gone to broad gauge because of the uniform gauge policy which has been adopted by India in 1992. Railway stations, we have more than 7,000 railway stations. Passenger traffic in millions is 3,519, and in terms of a day it is 9.64 millions. Total track kilometers is 1,28,305. If we talk about the electrified one, though it is not completely electrified, but it is a substantial amount there as 50,394 kilometers. Apart from that, the tractive effort per loco, because that is the value with the help of which the train will be taken forward. In the case of broad gauge, it is around 40 tons. Number of passenger trains which are running daily is more than 10,000, and a bit less than 10,000 is the number of goods trains which are running daily. It is 9,164. And the freight carried per day in million tons is 3.88. This is the organizational structure with the help of which the railways is running in India. At the top, we have the Minister of Railways being assisted by the Minister of States of Railways. And then below that comes the actual technical positions, and that is Chairman and CEO of the Railway Board, who is being assisted by different people like member traction and rolling stocks, member infrastructure, member operations and business, and member finance, apart from the secretary of the railway board and the various director generals who comes and looks at different type of aspects like safety, RPF, HR, RHS, etc. Along with that, there are a number of units which are production units or the zonal units which operates the tracks in their particular zones, or the educational units as well as the autonomous units which are there, which are helping the Indian Railways to get operated and sort out the problems which it is facing. So, we will be having a look on that also. Say if we talk about the zonal structure, on the right hand side a map has been shown where the color coding is being given, and these color codings are basically related with the zones. If you see the zones, they have been divided in east, west, north and south. So, you can see that there are east zones, north zones, south and west zones along with the central zone, and then there are combinations because the network has become so big and the total traffic which is there on this particular network is also so high. Therefore, these type of structures have been created. So, there are 16 such zonal structures or those zones which are available in India, which are operating the trains in their respective zones. Now, if we talk about the manufacturing units which are helping Indian Railways in terms of the manufacturing of the coaches, wagons, locomotives or the wheels, or there are different other parts which are being manufactured there. So, what we can see is the first one is the Chittaranjan locomotive works, which is at Chittaranjan. From the name itself, it says that it is manufacturing locomotives. Then there is a central organization of railway electrification at Allahabad. This is related with the electrification works going on the tracks. There is Banaras locomotive works in Varanasi. Again, as the name suggests, it is manufacturing the different type of locomotives. Then diesel loco modernization works at Patiala is another unit. Integral Coach Factory Chennai, which was the first one which came up to produce or manufacture the various coaches which you might have seen on the Indian Railways from the very starting. Now they are changing with Vande Bharat and all those type of trains which are coming up. The Mumbai Railway Vikas Corporation, which was created for the Mumbai zone because of the lot many activities which were going on there, as well as looking at the passenger and the freight pressure which was there on that network. Then Rail Coach Factory at Kapurthala is another one. There is a rail wheel factory at Bangalore, then there is a modern coach factory at Raebareli, then rail wheel plant at Bela, and the workshop projects organization at Patna. So, you can see these are the major units, manufacturing units, which are rolling out the rolling stock and which is being used by the Indian Railways. Apart from that, so as to look at the requirements in terms of the use of technology, in terms of the use of the various equipment and the modernization of those equipment, in terms of the operations, in terms of the constructions of different aspects of the track, various educational units have also been set up. And what we can found is the first one, the Research, Design and Standards Organization, which is at Lucknow, is one of the prime organization which rolls out the various standards which are used for different type of construction activities, operational activities and maintenance activities on the Indian Railways. There is National Academy of Indian Railways at Vadodara. Related to civil engineering, there is a Indian Railways Institute of Civil Engineering at Pune, which is specifically looking at the civil engineering aspects and just refreshing their officers in this particular area. Similarly, we have Electrical Engineering Institute at Nasik. There is a Mechanical and Electrical Engineering Institute at Jamalpur, because there are so many things wherein the combination of these two aspects needs to be taken care of. Then when you come to the operations, the signals is one of the important aspect which you must have seen. And these signals, actually for that there is a Railway Institute of Signal Engineering and Telecommunications which have been set up at Secunderabad. Now another one is the Indian Railway Institute of Transport Management, which is there at Lucknow. This also looks at the logistics side, and there are different courses and the certification courses which are also being rolled out by this particular institute. Now let us look at the National Rail Plan 2030, that is what we are foreseeing, that what we are going to use, what we are going to achieve by 2030. The first thing which it says is, as is rail network mapping. What does that mean is, whatever is the railway network which is available to us today needs to be geo-referenced, needs to be digitized, so that wherever you are sitting you have an access to that and you can look at any of the section of the Indian Railways, any of the station of the Indian Railways, any of the yard of the Indian Railways, just by a click. And that is one of the motive, that by 2030 we should have each and everything as it is available on ground in terms of a digitized network. The another emphasis which it has given is to the demand forecast, because this is very important. We need to understand what is going to be the requirement tomorrow, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line from today. And now on the basis of that, we have to identify that which particular network section, say Delhi to Mumbai or Mumbai to Kolkata or Delhi to Chennai or any other such section, needs to be upgraded, because the load is going to be much more, and if there is no position, no condition by which we can further upgrade, then what can be the other possibility so that the passengers and freight can be transported from one location to another. So this is one area which is a prime area which will help Indian Railways to plan in advance for all those requirements which are going to be there in future. Now looking at these demands, the Indian Railways or this National Rail Plan, it has proposed few of the things. It has marked the things in terms of a high density network, in short being defined as HDN. That means these are the network sections where the traffic is too high. Lot of overlappings can also be there on the routes. So this is one thing being identified, and then it has to be seen that what is going to happen tomorrow with these particular networks and how we can augment the capacity on these particular networks. Similarly, there is another thing is highly utilized network, a bit different than the density network. These are the networks on which the passengers are much more. So, we need to identify again those. It may happen that that high density network and HUN, they may overlap, but in some of the cases they may not be overlapping. This can also be a possibility. Then freight demand in terms of the trains and the corridors is one another thing which is also an important aspect which needs to be looked at. So, this is one area which has already been started working in terms of the dedicated freight corridors. You must have heard about the Dedicated Freight Corridor Corporation of India Limited. They have created their hubs at different locations. Freight corridors have been identified. The freight has been carried at a higher speeds than before through the goods train, being taken to those positions or locations, and from there it is being distributed. Or it can be the vice versa, that it has been got all those commodity at that particular location is being taken forward to other destinations. And another aspect which it is looking is at the capacity utilization. How much capacity is being utilized today, and on the basis of the demand tomorrow, what is the possibility that this capacity is going to get saturated by which particular year, and that is where before that we should plan to provide more tracks, more lanes or lines on which the trains will be running. So, on the right hand side what I have shown is that particular document first page, which is a National Rail Plan NRP India of 2030. Here now what we have talked in the previous slide, I am just trying to show you those particular things. You can see in the first one is the high density network roads. All these red color ones, they are high density networks, and at the back of that you might be able to see the blue color broader lines. Those blue color broader lines, they are basically the subsections of the HDN routes, and their potential subsections which are going to be having more traffic tomorrow, and then they will also convert into the red line areas as being shown in this. On the right hand side we have the high utility networks or routes which are being provided, and they are again being color coded on the basis of the different values. You can see that there are different type of colors starting from say the pinkish color, the orangish color, the blue shades are there, violets are there, green, blacks, and all those different colors are there. So, this is the identification of the highly utilized routes which are already there in India. If you look at the freight demand corridors, again you can see that this freight demand corridors, they have been shown by the different tones of the same color. So, if we talk here or if we talk on this side, this is a bit darker shade, but if you go in some of the areas, say here, this is a bit lower tone of that particular color. So, what it says is that this is being defined in terms of the freight trains, and if it is more than 200, it is the highest one, and then the second is less 100, then 50, then 20, and less than 10, and so on. Capacity utilization has been identified with 2051. If you see here for 2051, what is going to happen to India? And most of the routes which you can see here, they have been shown in the broad red color lines or connectivities. That indicates that by 2051 we are going to have a more saturation, and therefore we should start designing the things at least 20 years before that, or planning the things at least 20 years before that, so that there is no problem to the passengers when they start moving from one location to another location. Then another thing which it emphasizes is the connectivity with the industrial corridors. Now, this is a very important aspect from the economic point of view and economic development of the country. If these connectivities have not been provided, then whatever the consumption materials which are required in different areas will not be ferried from the production areas. So, those connectivities needs to be ensured, and that is where 11 corridors have already been taken up, and by 2025-26, 30 projects are going to be further taken up. Apart from that, the emphasis of the Government of India is on the multimodal freight terminal and passenger terminals. These multimodal freight terminals and passenger terminals is also a part of Gati Shakti, the scheme of Government of India, where many of the ministries have come together and are cooperating in sharing the data, so that whatever development is coming up in an area in a regional form or a local form is a overall development, it is not a specific development. So, this multimodality is also being talked, where the freight as well as passenger can both be there, but at the same time their requirements are different, and therefore the facilities for those requirements needs to be created in separately but at same location. So, it gives an idea that the same space have been utilized to the highest potential, not going at different locations. Then when you say that there is going to be a capacity utilization by 2051 at the highest level, obviously the demand for the rolling stock, and when you say rolling stock, it is in terms of coaches, it is in terms of locomotives, it is in terms of wagons, it can be in terms of the EMUs. So, all of these requirements is one another thing which needs to be also discussed, and that is what is being taken up in this NRP 2030. So, it is trying to identify for next 5 years what will be the requirement, and therefore, as we have discussed about the various manufacturing units, they need to roll out those particular type of requirements. They have to come up with those number of wagons or coaches or locomotives, etc. It is also talking about the financing and the potential strategies. Now, these financing and potential strategies is an important aspect, because as the demand increases, as the infrastructure requirements increases, you need money, and from where this money will come? The government cannot provide the whole of the money. There needs to be some other mechanism also. And looking at that particular aspect, the document very clearly and specifically emphasizes what are the possibilities of the financing of the different projects which needs to be taken up in the different areas or different aspects of the railways. And then what are the potential strategies with the help of which those things can be met or those things can be distributed. Now, on the right hand side, again one of the photograph has been shown wherein the passenger terminals locations are being talked about. So, there are different dots of different colors, they define what type of terminals are there. Now, when we look at the metro rail system which is already being developed, is running and is getting developed in different cities. So, what is the scenario today? So, if we look at it 2024 today, the operational routes are 862 kilometers in 16 cities. Annual ridership is 2.7 billion. There are under construction routes of around 600 kilometers. If we talk about the approved and the proposed routes which have been planned, then it is roughly around 1300 kilometers. So, it means in many of the cities this is further coming up at a very big number. The first metro rail system which came up very back was in Kolkata, and part of that was in underground also even at that time. The nearest metro rail system is the Navi Mumbai Metro. The largest of course is known to everybody. This is a Delhi Metro which is running at a network of 351 kilometers and is still expanding. The smallest metro system is in Kanpur, which is roughly around 9 kilometers long only. And the highest ridership in all metro systems which are running at this particular time in India is the Delhi Metro. It is having the highest ridership. Now, if we talk about this metro, there are few other things which are coming up, and they are being defined as metro light or neo metro projects. Now, metro light or neo metro projects, as you can see on the side, right hand side, one such photograph has been shown of the neo metro system, which can even run on the road system, which can be a dedicated road for the movement of this, as the same way as we usually talk in the case of bus rapid transit, where a dedicated lane is being given to the buses. Now, in this particular direction, some of the important projects which have been taken up is a Bhubaneswar metro of 26 kilometers, Gorakhpur metro light of again 27 kilometers, Kozhikode metro light is around 13 kilometers, Nasik metro is 32 kilometers, and Trivandrum metro is around 22 kilometers. And there are 21 projects proposals are also underway in these particular areas. Our discussion will not be complete if we do not talk about the suburban rail, and this suburban rail is one of the lifeline of Mumbai. It has been there for many years and is still working good, ferrying people for big distances who are coming from outside Mumbai also for work, and then in the evening they are going back. So we have 7 cities in which these type of systems are operational, with an overall length of around 3,300 kilometers and an annual ridership of 5.5 billion. But at the same time, there is a planned suburban railway system which is roughly around 470 kilometers, which further is going to be there. You can see on the right hand side is a photograph from Mumbai, where the suburban trains have been shown and sharing a platform on the either of the side. One new development which has now come up, because there has been a debate that the metro is a urban rail. Now, but if you want to connect two cities which are very nearer to each other, can it be by the expansion of metro, or whether we should go for something else? And that's where this rapid rail system, the regional rapid rail system, has come up. And the construction is 246 kilometers and the plan is 494 kilometers. And just for your information, I can share that already between Delhi and Meerut, this rapid rail system, regional rapid rail system, is under construction, and a part of that is already being operated. You can move using this particular system with a higher speed, and that means the less of the travel time between the two cities as compared to the use of metro if it has been implemented for the connectivity of those two cities. Monorail is another system which is operational as for 19.53 kilometers, majority of that goes to Mumbai, but there is a planning for 60 kilometers in this particular area, but then this can be used as an access system to the major systems like suburban rails, metros, etc. because of the capacity conditions. We need to look at the suitability in that sense, how many passengers can be taken per day per direction. Now, the another one which we are going to talk is a high speed rail in India. And this high speed rail is the aim of the government also, that we should implement it, and that is where they started with the first one, that is the Mumbai Ahmedabad with 508 kilometers stretch. And the construction is underway, and probably it is going to be functional in near future. But there are other projects also which have been thought of, and they are going to be implemented one after the other or simultaneously, like Delhi, Lucknow, Varanasi with almost 800 kilometers, Varanasi, Patna, Howrah of 750 kilometers. That means if you talk about these two networks, you will get connected from Delhi to Howrah by high speed rail. Then there another side is the Delhi, Jaipur, Udaipur, Ahmedabad, again 870 kilometers. So that means now you are going towards the south from Delhi. Delhi, Chandigarh, Ludhiana, Jalandhar and Amritsar, you are going north with 476 kilometers. In the central India, Nagpur, Nasik, Mumbai. So from Ahmedabad to Mumbai, and Mumbai to you can go to Nagpur. And then from Mumbai you can also move to Hyderabad via Pune, which is 671 kilometers, and then Chennai, Bangalore, Mysore is a bit of a standalone, not being connected in that form, but this is also one important corridor which has been identified for this high speed rail with a length of around 464 kilometers. On the right hand side, the bullet train project of Mumbai Ahmedabad has been shown with their certain salient features. I am just going to talk about these on the next slide. So here what you can see is, as I talk, that this is 508 kilometers long, and out of these 508 kilometers, only 156 kilometers is in Maharashtra, and rest around 350 kilometers that is in Gujarat or Dadar and Nagar Haveli. It is going to have viaduct of 465 kilometers, bridges of around 10 kilometers, the banking, cutting, cut and cover of around 6.75 kilometers, underground 21 kilometers with 7 kilometers going under the sea, and mountain and tunnels is around again 10 kilometers. As you can see here, the number of stations which can be there. So, starting from Sabarmati to Mumbai, and at Sabarmati already this multimodal transportation system hub is under construction, which will take care of high speed rail, the conventional rail, the metro, the BRT and the conventional buses along with the IPT systems. So, these are around 12 stations which are there. If all of the stations have been, the train stops in each and every of these stations, then it is going to take 2.58 hours so as to move from Sabarmati to Mumbai or Mumbai to Sabarmati. But if it is taking only limited stops, then in that case it will be roughly around 2 hours 10 minutes only. The maximum speed is 320 kilometers per hour. And if you talk about the various other things, there are 12 stations, 8 in Gujarat, 4 in Maharashtra, 3 rolling stop depots, 8 maintenance depots, then multimodal transport hub as I already talked about, and HSR Training Institute in Vadodara is the another additional thing which will come up apart from what I have already talked about in terms of the educational institutions of Indian Railway. Here you can see is the actual live condition of this Mumbai Ahmedabad high speed train corridor which is under construction. So, with this we close today's discussion. Today what we have got is, we have got an idea of the railway network which is spanned across the world, the fastest trains which are operating in the world, the train networks in India, their salient features, the metro rail systems, suburban rail systems which are already working or being planned in India, regional rail, high speed rail systems and getting developed in India. With this, we close this particular lecture. Thank you, and we will be again meeting in the next lecture.